Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lifestyle with Dr. Moby. I'm Dr. Moby, and today we are honored with great guest Jeffery Holst, and he's a podcaster as well as, um, great, of course, working in real estate. I assume, Jeffrey.
Hey,
So,
thanks for having me on.
okay, great. So, tell us about yourself. What you normally do beside podcast.
I'm a full-time real estate investor. I'm actually a recovering attorney. That's what I call myself. I used to practice law. I got out of that a few years ago. Actually, about a decade ago now, I got out of practicing law. I went to work for a corporate career for a little while and quickly realized that I didn't like working for someone else. So
Mhm.
that's when I started buying real estate.
Okay, very nice, very nice. And so, tell me about, how did you start with podcasting love? How did your journey start?
Sure. So about 3 years ago, the corporate job that I had was selling to a different corporation, and I was given a choice of taking another job that I didn't want or getting a buyout. So I took the buyout, and I thought, well, I could probably survive for a little while on this, and I got bored. So I started trying to change my real estate investing from single family to multifamily, and to do that, I wanted to potentially at some point in the future start raising money. So I thought I need to become knowledgeable and well, not knowledgeable as much as I needed to become known for the knowledge that I had. So I just started podcasting for that reason. We started a show, myself and one other guy. We didn't even have guests or anything. We would just sit down on YouTube and drink a bourbon and talk about real estate. That was kind of our thing.
Wow, wow, cool, very cool. So tell me about, I know you do two types of podcast. One you do about lifestyle, and the other
Yeah.
you. So tell me about that first.
Yeah, so the other show is called Last Life Ever, and basically what we do on that show is we interview people that are living extraordinary lives to help inspire our audience to live extraordinary lives. So we just I got when I was practicing law, I got diagnosed with leukemia,
Mhm.
and I thought I was going to die. And when I didn't die, I realized, life's super short. We only get one chance here on Earth. We better go and do the best version of that we possibly can. And that's really what that show is about. It's about helping inspire people to live their best life.
Mhm. And that is, I think, because you said you had some personal experience and you went through that, and you feel that you can really share a lot of your insights with a lot of people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, I learn from the people that I have on. I'm sure it's the same for your show, right? You
Yeah,
bring people on, and it's great to connect with different people from different walks of life, doing different things than you. And you learn, you learn from everyone. And the other thing that happens too is, like, I get invited on other people's shows, and so it works really well to share both my message of getting out there and living your best version of your life, and then also um, you know I keep I get to live my best life by learning from other people, because to me that's kind of the trick to life is just getting a little bit better every day. If you
yeah.
get a little bit better every day, then eventually you're living a great life.
And that is so true, absolutely right. When I also have a lot of guests and we talk, and then, sometimes even their simple words, they have a different kind of rephrasing, and makes you wonder, okay, it's the same concept, of course. I mean, lifestyle, we talk a lot about that, but the way it's said, or the way that angle brings you uniqueness, and they say, wow, that
Yeah.
I never thought like that, and yeah, like even talking to you, you said, that you at that time, you never felt life is so precious, or people around you are, and people might not get, of course, we don't get another chance unless we believe that we have different lives then, and then, but even then, this life will not be the same,
Yeah. That's right. And we can't, it's the same with every moment, right? So
Mm.
um once a moment's passed, it's passed. You don't get it back. So we'll have to live. I've really adopted sort of a live in the present kind of lifestyle choice. And Yeah, and you're right. I mean, if you believe in multiple lives, it's still at some point you get to that final one. You get to get a little bit better every time, and then you transcend that existence. So
Mhm, mm. So I think tell me some of the. I'm sure you have a lot of guests over the years, so you can share some of the tips which you think it's good to share with my audience.
yeah, for sure. So I have this thing. It's kind of like relentless positivity. It's sort of what defines me. I try to look at everything from a positive, and try to minimize the negative. I believe good and bad happens to everyone every day,
Mhm,
but it's how you react to it that frames that stuff. And maybe there's not even really good and bad in reality. It's just stuff that happens.
mhm,
And I interviewed a guy 6 months ago or so. His name was Mike Pearson, and Mike lost his son in a war. Um, and he was understandably upset about that and depressed and struggled with it, and he couldn't move on in his mind until he found three positive things that came from his son's death. And I thought to myself, it's like what you were saying earlier about sometimes somebody frames something that you think differently. That was impactful to me. Uh, every negative thing has positive, and he said not one positive, but three positive things happen for every negative thing. And I started thinking about that, and now I often will stop and say, okay, what, like, I got diagnosed with leukemia. That was objectively tough, right?
mhm,
But uh, if I hadn't, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't be sharing my message. I wouldn't even have my message. I would be in a completely different career. I was a bankruptcy attorney, and instead of being a bankruptcy attorney, now I'm doing something that I love, which is real estate, and sharing this message of positivity with people. So I mean, this good comes from these challenging times, and I think that's really important for people to recognize.
Yeah, and that is so true. We all have difficulties in life. Nobody has, and people think that. And same way, I am, a physician, and I still practice, of course, medicine. But myself, I was to take care of myself, my own health, and was really got sick, myself. And then it dawned on me that if I don't take care of it, then can lose everything you ever thought of. I used to I still fly actually, so I have pilot license. So I thought, if you get sick, you are on medications, you will have a difficulty getting license back and so forth.
Sure.
If you don't take care of yourself, and this is things has consequences. Your choices, wrong choices, will lead to wrong results and bad results. And so which I mean, we have all of us have choices, and we can make choices, but remember, each choice leads to a different path. And the path to success, the best path in my opinion, is simple. Don't spend a lot of money, and smart, easy to understand. I call it MacGyver approach, which basically it cleans up things for you, make it very simple to understand, and take care of yourself, and realign yourself in and out with the nature, with positivity, with gratitude, thankful, and be blessed that we wake up every morning. Imagine if you cannot breathe, or God forbid somebody got sick and they have breathing problem. Now we have COVID, and a lot of people have attention to health more, but imagine they can't. Then we took it granted of so many things every time. But things can change in a second. And then all of a sudden, then we say, "Oh my God, where did I end up?" So those are, and tough time definitely can bring best out of anyone. I think the also the coal becomes diamond, or carbon becomes diamond, under
Sure.
pressure, right? But same thing, if but you have to believe in yourself. So and believe in whatever belief you have, higher power, that we have limited powers. You, me, we have limited, but there is something higher powers, sure. And whatever you believe you have, great. And even if you know, still have some kind of belief, right? Then those are very important. Just realign, take care of your body, right? Because then your body will take care of you. Very simple. There is nothing, difficult to understand. But we are like everybody. You were busy with your professional life. I'm sure you never visited doctor, never even thought this you will be sick.
It's true. It's definitely true because I was 30. When you're
Yeah.
young, you don't always go in. And what happened is I went to Peru and to Machu Picchu, and at elevation I started to feel very sick, and I thought it was altitude sickness. And it just didn't. I mean, I came down and I didn't get better. Which altitude sickness, if you go up and come back down, it's usually you get better. I ended up getting some blood work done, and found out that I had my white blood cell counts were very, very high. So it was a shock for sure, and it was something that your whole life changes in 1 second like that. COVID's a little like that for the whole world, right?
Yeah. Oh,
The
yeah.
whole world is going through some trauma right now, and the good part is for me. I think the people that inspire me the most are people that have overcome stuff, that have gone through whatever it is that they went through, and they've accomplished big things. And sometimes it's adversity that causes people to push themselves forward. And I feel like this last year or so, there's been a lot of adversity, which means well, there's pain in that associated with that, and I don't want to minimize that. It
Mm,
also means that there can be great progress that can come out of this, and
mm.
I'm very optimistic about 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, because of what's happening right now. I mean, we know there are people right now in their basements, learning new skills, doing new things, changing their mindset, and these people are going to make a difference in the world. And I think that the world's going to be better for this.
Yeah, and that is so true. It is very painful to watch. A lot of people lost life as well as, and our prayers are with everyone and a lot of people. But you're right. There is something good also will come out. It's already actually you can see that. You and me, we are working from home,
Yeah.
and then there's a less there are less cars and less driving. I mean, I used to drive every week 300 miles, okay, and then we are not driving anything, so hardly some. So that is, yeah, sure, then the pace changes, and of course a lot of things change. But we are working a lot on TV and all these cameras. But main thing is, I think there's definitely, you're right, there are new technologies, new avenues. I think humans are always very creative. They find a way, or as to kind of override that. And look at, the pollution is less, and there were, in Venice, when at the peak, the fish came back in the in water, which they haven't seen fish in that Venice area for longest time.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. The environmental impact is it's an interesting thing to look at, because on one hand, yeah, way less carbon emissions and stuff, less commutes, and by the way, I think some of that will never come back, because there's going to be people working from home forever that weren't working from home before. But there's also other environmental impacts. I think I read the other day, they estimate 5 billion disposable masks have ended up in the ocean.
Oh,
um, and that's terrible, right? I mean, that's objectively a horrible thing. Um, so there's this weird divergence of positive and negative, but that always happens, and that's kind of like what I was saying about day to day life.
hmm.
There's always some good and some bad. It's a yin and yang kind of philosophy, and it's up to us to make the best of whatever situation we find ourselves in. And that's what I hope the world's going to do now. I mean, there's some positive signs coming out with vaccines in almost no time. I mean, it's amazing. And also people voluntarily worldwide locking themselves in. I mean, this stuff hasn't been forced. They haven't been soldiers on the streets forcing people to stay in their house and wear masks and stuff. It's actually somewhat extraordinary when you think about how much people have come together. Even though people are still complaining about it and everything else, it's still pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. A lot of things I see now, a lot of with people, of course, they're complaining about with all that. But definitely, it's gonna, there are also there was test of relationships. A lot of people whose relationships were at, maybe at different level, and then when they had to quarantine together, there were some actually really improved. Most actually improved. Very few there, they actually, those relationship didn't blossom because they never actually ever spent time together before, because they were all the time busy. Now they had to quarantine together, so then they found out they're not compatible.
Yeah,
So
it reminds them, right? I mean, it reminds them why they were together in the first place in a lot of cases. I actually was thinking when the quarantine first started that we would see a big rise in divorce, but as they kept extending the quarantine, I think people were forced to adjust and start, working on the things that were bothering them. And so, in a way, I think that's a really great thing. And I haven't seen any evidence of an increase in divorce rates, although maybe we will once courts open back up or something. I don't know, right?
yeah. Yeah, well, it can happen. So tell me about your other podcast. I know you talk about real estate, and so tell
Sure.
me a bit about, because I have very few guests on real estate. So
Yeah, so the show is called the Old Fashioned Real Estate Show. It's best on YouTube, but we do sometimes put it on the podcasting apps and stuff too. But basically, what we do is it's myself and my co-host, and we sit down over an old fashioned, a glass of bourbon, and talk about some topic. We'll just pick like market cycles, and we'll talk about how we think about market cycles, where we are in the market cycle. And it's a short, it's designed to be the length of a drink, honestly. So someone can sit down with a cup of coffee and watch one episode, or they can, if they drink alcohol, they can sit down with a glass of wine and they can watch the show. And when they finish their drink, that's about when it's done. So it's 10, 15 minutes long, and just a nice discrete package on that topic, whatever it is for that week.
okay, so tell me a little bit. I have seen, with the interest rates very low, and there is actually boom in sales. I have not seen that kind of crazy sales going around my neighborhood. Even I got calls from a lot of investors. So
Sure, trying to buy your house, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, um, people are predicting a crash, but right now, in most markets that I track, the inventory of houses for sale is very, very low. Um, Part of that, I think, is because people are working from home more, and when you're working from home, you're less likely to want to move because there's more things you have to worry about. Also, because of COVID, I think people don't want to do things like open houses and have people in and out of their house when they're living there. So some of it is that. Some of it is the reduction in interest rates. I mean, obviously, it's much, much cheaper now to buy a house than it was, 6 months ago or a year ago, because interest rates have come down to low rates that are frankly the lowest they've ever been in, modern history. So it's really an interesting market out there. Uh, Real estate's been up, rents have been up. And because of all the stimulus money that's come in, at least in the US economy, we haven't really seen a rise in defaults on rents or mortgages or any of that stuff. So it seems like everything's pretty strong in the market right now, but that could change very quickly, obviously. Usually, when the market's as strong as it is now, is when you start to see people start thinking about bubbles, right? That's what happened in 2006. People forget this all the time. 2007, 2008, the real estate market was very tough. But 2006, it was the strongest it had ever been up until maybe now.
Mhm. And so tell me, for people, so where anyone should start with, looking around, or there's certain hot areas, or
Yeah. Listen, if someone's interested in investing in real estate versus just buying a house, if you're buying a house, it doesn't, as long as you can afford it, it doesn't matter, right? If the value goes up, if value goes down, it's just a function of whether you can afford your mortgage. So you have to think about it from that perspective. But if you're investing, I think the trick is to find a market where the returns meet your goals, and not to invest for appreciation, because you don't know if values are going to go up or down. You have to really I think look at the 4 different ways you make money in real estate. The first one being cash flow, just the rents that you collect. But the other 3 ways are really important too, which is depreciation and other tax advantages, because there are a lot of tax advantages to real estate. Amortization, which is the pay down of mortgage. So if someone else is paying your mortgage for you, even if the value goes down, you still come out okay. If you buy a $100,000 house, just to make the math easy, and you put $20,000 down and it goes down to 80,000, you could say, oh, I lost $20,000. But if you held that for 20, 30 years and someone else paid the mortgage payment for you in the form of rent and it was paid off, then it's only worth 80,000, but you only paid effectively 20,000 because of leverage for it. So, there's it's very forgiving over the long term. So I would just look to buy stuff that cash flows, put long-term financing on it so you don't have to sell it or refinance in a recession, because that's where you get burned, is when you have to sell. If you bought in 2006 and sold in 2010, it wasn't good. If you bought in 2006 and you're selling now, you're super happy about it.
Mm-hmm. So what your suggestion is, don't do the bubble, those short-term interests or short-term loans.
That's right.
Go long-term.
Yeah, especially now with rates being so low, just lock it in as long as you can.
And what about certain markets you think? And now, what about residential versus commercial? Is it different?
Yeah, I mean, I focus mainly now on multifamily real estate, so small apartment complexes like 10 to 30 unit buildings, not the giant ones. Those are mainly owned by institutions. But I tend to focus on the apartments, but it's kind of like, it depends on where you are in the country or in the world for that matter, as to what the best thing to be in. I'd avoid office buildings right now because a lot of people are moving out of offices. But if you get the right deal, it can still make sense. I mean, I literally bought an office building last month because it was really a good deal, and I knew I had a plan for it, and I think it'll work out fine. Yeah, it's hard to pick a specific thing because there's so many strategies. There's really no right way to do it. It's just about knowing your numbers and making sure that you understand where whatever that individual market is. There's no such thing in my mind as a national real estate market. It's all local. You're probably best, if you're just wanting to dabble in real estate, to stay away, or just to buy your neighbor's house. If you just buy the house next door, because about your neighborhood. If you like your neighborhood, chances are your neighborhood's a safe place. People want to live there. Buy your neighbor's house, get some good financing on it, rent it out, and just wait, and you'll probably be fine.
So your advice is stay local and just take advantage of these lower interest rate, and you will be fine. So
yeah, I mean, and as long as you have a long horizon, right? If you're going to buy something and sell it next year, and real estate's not good for that. You should be in some other kind of investment for short-term stuff.
Okay, great. It was a pleasure, and especially with the real estate, because I was surprised. You were expecting, like you said, bankruptcies and maybe, but it's opposite actually. A lot of people are really buying smaller houses, or those maybe they have more time to now look and take advantage of the low interest rate. So, like you said. Thank you for coming to our show. Any final thoughts you have for my audience?
No, I would just say, if you do want to get involved in real estate investing, it's a great thing to be involved in. But only do it if it's what you want to do, because like I said at the beginning, we only have this one chance, right, to live this life. And so you have to do the things that you're passionate about, and don't do them for the money. Just do them because it's what you want to do. It's what's right to do. It's what you're called to do.
Okay, well, thank you and for taking time to be on my show, and take care. And for people, check out his podcast. It's really good. It's 2 of them he does. One about real estate, and that's a lot of information, especially if you are into real estate. And second is about lifestyle. And do you have your website you can mention?
Yeah, sure. The best way to find me is just to go to jeffreyholst.com.
Jeffrey Holst. Okay, great. Okay, you take care and stay safe and take care. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Take care.